Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for the 60-minute MBA for Architects webinar. As you get settled, a few reminders before we get started. AIA California sincerely acknowledges the professional expertise our volunteer presenters provide. We greatly appreciate the diversity of perspectives and recognize that items presented in today's session may elicit a variety of responses. We strongly encourage attendees to be constructive in their comments and questions to the presenters and to one another to ensure we have a session that is productive in an environment that is a positive learning experience for everyone. Additionally, please do not use the chat box to ask any questions for today's panelists. Instead, use the Q&A. With the Q&A feature, attendees can like a question and move it to the top of the queue. And as always, the webinar content and additional resources will be made available online shortly after the session. Today's webinar, which will discuss the fundamentals of all successful A&E firms, is brought to you by BQE. It qualifies for one AIA learning unit for those who watch live, which AIA California will report for you once you have finished the session in full. Now on today's presentation. Welcome to Steve Burns, FAIA. Steve Burns, FAIA, is a global thought leader and speaker on topics related to firm management and emerging technologies. He is the founder of the Well-Designed Firm, a nascent business consultancy helping A&E firms that wish to make their business as elegant as the architecture they create. Stephen received his Master's of Architecture from the Harvard Graduate School of Design, spent 7 years at SOM, and founded his own architecture firm, BBA Architects, which he sold in 2007. He created ArchiOffice, the popular office and project management software, which he sold to BQE Software in 2010, which later evolved into BQE Core. Thank you so much, Steve, for being with us, and welcome.
Okay, great, Sarah. Thank you for that. I'm going to share my screen right now. So let's get going here, and should be good. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining me today. It will most certainly be a fire hose of information. I had actually been asked by BQE Software late last year to attempt to kind of distill the information that I've been relaying over it's hundreds of webinars that I've given over the last 12 years. And they wanted me to do it in a single hour. So please buckle up. And to be clear, there's actually no literal MBA being issued today, but for those of you, as Sarah just mentioned, stay here for at least 45 minutes. You'll get the AIA credit. So hopefully that will be the nice consolation for you. Okay, so let's go ahead. I kind of wish Sarah hadn't read all that stuff about me, because I think it's going to be important. I'm going to kind of like review some of that in a moment here for you to understand how I've come to you today and to talk about this particular topic, because really I'm just, most likely all of you, I'm just really an architect. But after receiving the Master of Architecture degree from the Harvard GSD way back in 1986, I went on to work with SOM, Skidmore, Owings & Merrill in Chicago. And as you all can appreciate, SOM was and is an incredibly well-run firm. And after my first year there, I was promoted to an associate and given some pretty amazing opportunities, including spending a year in the London office. And then later, I opened an office for SOM in Berlin while we worked on some projects in the reunified Germany. And that was between 1990 and 1993. Now, after my 7 years at SOM, my wife and I kind of made the decision that the time was right for me to open my own firm. So in 1993, I founded BBA Architects back in Chicago, and it quickly became clear to me that designing architecture was the easiest. It was the most fun part about being an architect. Running a professional services firm was a much more formidable task. And because I believe that good design is the solution to every problem, I decided very naively to design my own software to run our firm, to handle all of those mundane, repetitive business tasks that really sucked all of the joy out of being an architect. And it ended up being so successful for our firm. I was later, kind of inspired to create my second company, which was called Orange Loft. And it was basically created to make the software that I had built for our firm publicly available. After another 4 years of intensive development and investing way more money than I ever anticipated. We ended up launching our office and project management software solution in 2004. It was called ArchiOffice, and then later we rolled out Engineer Office. And within 3 years, we had nearly 900 firms using our software. And my career as an architect had been hijacked. So I decided to sell my first company, BBA, in 2007. We had grown to 17 architects. We had experienced a really impressive compound annual growth rate of 26.5% over those 14 years. And I attribute a lot of that success to the benefits afforded to us by having smart technology in place. And I'm going to revisit this topic about technology later on in this webinar. The experience of selling a business, something that we create from scratch, it was not only an amazing learning experience, but it was incredibly intoxicating. And then 3 years later, I experienced my second major business transaction when I sold Orange Loft to BQE Software, who is the sponsor of today's webinar. This was also another amazing business lesson, as I learned that selling a technology company, which has recurring revenues, it's far more lucrative than selling a professional services firm, which in most cases has an unpredictable revenue stream and a much lower revenue per full-time employee, which is a common KPI that I've talked about at other webinars as well, that most AE firms look at. And I remained with BQE as a significant shareholder, but most really as a chief creative officer for 12 more years. And of particular note, by the way, is that during my time at BQE, we had 4 different software solutions which were being used by more than 4,000 different AE firms. So I had this incredible exposure to the businesses of a lot of architecture and engineering firms. Now, in 2021, I completed my third major business transaction when BQE received a significant investment from a private equity firm. And then I completed my role in that transition at the beginning of this year. And I've now created my fourth business, which Sarah mentioned is the Well-Designed Firm. I won't go into that right now. Well, maybe I'll have a slide about that if you want to learn about that a little bit later. Over the last 2 decades, through my work with ArchiOffice and Engineer Office and Bill Quick and BQE Core, I have had the great privilege of personally engaging with more than 1,300 firm owners. And I believe I've learned just as much from them as I hope they have, learned back from me. And I'm really in a position now to kind of share with you all that I've garnered over these, it's now almost 4 decades. And I try to put it into this little, 40-minute or so presentation for you. Okay, so Rebecca, I think you are on deck here with our first poll question. I'm going to have 4 poll questions that I'm going to throw out here for you today. I would appreciate it if you could quickly respond to this. I don't see it coming up just yet, but Rebecca, hopefully you can launch the poll. The poll question is what would you consider to be the single greatest benefit of owning your own firm? Is it having more control over how your firm is run? Is it the potential to earn more money? There we go. Is it the ability to be more creative and more innovative? Seems to have gone away on my screen. Or is it the ability to choose the types of clients and projects? Hopefully that poll is still up. Rebecca or Sarah, I don't know who's launching it. Make sure it is up. I don't see it any longer.
I'm going to go ahead and relaunch it really quick. Something
Seems
went
to have
away.
come and gone. Well, I'm not seeing it, but anyway, hey, Rebecca, if it is up and people are responding, can you share the results after we maybe get 80% of attendees to respond on that one?
I will do that.
Appreciate your swift response because, as I mentioned, I have a huge, a lot of material to cover today. How are we doing there, Rebecca?
Working on it. I'm not sure what is going on. I am having a little bit of a technical issue, but it's launching and then coming off. So just one moment.
A lot of people are just typing into the chat what they think, and I'm watching that go on here. So apparently there's a problem there, Rebecca. I'm going to move on because I really don't have time, and I want to leave time for Q&A as well. So I'm going to move on to my next slide. And thank you as I'm watching people. It's a very interesting. A lot of you are talking about earning more money. For the most part, most people have been responding in the past polls I've given on this, basically about more control over how the firm is run, and then the ability to choose the kinds of clients and projects that you work on. So unfortunately, I'm not going to get the poll to share with everybody today. Maybe Rebecca, by the time we launch the second one, you'll know if what that problem is all about. So on to my next slide here. For anybody who attended business school, okay, so now the poll just popped back up on me. So go ahead if you want to pull that in there, but hopefully you're seeing my thing there. So if you've attended any business school before, this is the kind of slide that would be totally unnecessary. It's sort of like telling somebody attending architecture school that you need to combine some critical thinking with creativity. It should really go unsaid, but telling members of the AE industry that they need to have a business thinking mindset, it's essential. It is something that really was never addressed in school, but it is fundamental to anyone who is venturing into business. Now, you might think I'm talking about classic business skills like accounting, market analysis, strategic planning. And I have done webinars on all of those topics, but they're really just the tip of the iceberg. And I'm looking at this poll that came over. So the last one is more control over how your firm is run, 43%, by the way. So thanks for at least figuring that out and getting it launched. And we're all good. So I will turn that off there. Anyway, so those are the kinds of skills that they're just a tip of the iceberg, as I mentioned. They would at least ensure that your firm has a pulse, but I don't want you to confuse having a beating heart with having an active, vibrant, and a fulfilling firm. You really should aspire to much more than having the minimally viable business. And I believe that architects are particularly well suited to have a business thinking mindset. It's just we're not trained to do it when we were in school. You simply need to analyze some situations and some data, and then think critically and creatively about ways to solve problems and achieve a success. And doesn't that pretty much sound like what you do anyway? It's what we do for our clients when we work on their projects. So a business thinking mindset is going to be essential for anyone looking to succeed in business. So you will just kind of need to understand backwards and forwards all the kinds of structures and systems that are existing in your business. And business thinking will introduce a systemic approach to understanding your organization, how your leadership manifests itself, what will define the firm's culture, and how change can happen. When a firm leader exhibits business thinking characteristics, they're also going to be able to construct some new patterns of trust, confidence, and empowerment. And this impacts not just them as an individual, but the entire firm. So you're going to have the clarity necessary to recognize some opportunities, appreciate the consequences, and then take on some risks by making what are very often difficult trade-off decisions. When all members of your firm's leadership team can exhibit a business thinking mindset, your company is going to be able to finally develop the competitive advantages that will differentiate your firm, and in turn, that's going to propel you to success. And if you can extend this by transforming the entire culture of your firm, every single employee, to appreciate that they are all part of a team that is in business together, you can have business thinking permeating your firm on a day-to-day basis. And that means the status quo is never deemed acceptable. Every member of your firm is going to contribute to pushing the bar higher and higher infinitely. So if you're the kind of firm that looks at every project as an opportunity to push the design envelope, you are very well suited to these skills. But simply focus those skills inward and look at everything within your firm as an opportunity to push against the status quo, to be the best business that you can be. Now, I created this looping diagram to explain the kind of process that firms are going to need to implement when they deploy a business thinking mindset. I call it the business thinking cycle. It's really the circulation system for your firm, and it's going to have to flow continuously in order to sustain vibrancy and growth. So there are really three organs that are driving the system. They're the ability to understand, I talked about that a moment ago, understanding your systems backwards and forward, right? Reflecting or thinking about what's going on, and then reimagining. And this could be a full day topic. And for the moment, let's just say, if you're going to achieve this mindset, again, start by understanding the people. That includes your employees, your clients, your consultants, and prospects. Observe all the various kinds of human behaviors that you interact with. Identify and understand the purpose of all those processes that you've developed for your firm over the past. Examine your current skills and identify the skills that are attainable by the staff you have. Assess your existing business model. Think about how it relates back to the business environment for which it was constructed, but then again, what's going on in business today, because it's a constantly changing environment. And just scrutinize your business plans and your strategic plans. And while doing this, it's really important that you consider how they manifest and how they impact the three scales inherent in every firm. At the organizational level, which is your company level, the outer shell of everything, let's peel that away. And then you're going to have the team level. And assuming your firm is organized into teams, but even very small firms have maybe informally teams. Anytime you work on a project, that's a group of people acting as a team. And at the level of every individual employee. And the next step is the best part. It's just to think. For most of us, we have experienced how some of our most creative ideas come while taking a shower or just relaxing on the beach. Well, that's what you need to do as a business owner. And provided that this water shortage here in California is hopefully over, at least this year, take a good long shower and reflect on all you just learned about your business in this understanding section here. So what we're really talking about, and I can speak from personal experience on this, as an architect, when I was given a project, I would think about it all the time. I'd go to sleep at night and I'd be imagining the designs. I'd be sitting at dinner and daydreaming about the project while others around the table are just talking about current events. That's what you need to do. But instead of applying all that thinking to your clients' projects, you turn it inward and you direct that talent that you have to your firm. You get to be daring, you get to do some different things, you get to be creative. And then finally, after all that creative thinking, you can begin to introduce new structures and processes, some new tools into your firm, new methodologies, and different kinds of ways to practice that will deliver what the ever-evolving market is seeking. And this process, again, will not end at that implementation. Right? You continue this cycle infinitely. Your firm is what I believe is your firm is in itself the best project you will ever get to work on. You never have to worry about it being built in concrete and steel and then having to do some expensive changes. How many times have we wished we could change a design after it's been constructed, right? You get to constantly iterate very easily to change your business as opportunities arise. Okay. So let's be honest, I actually didn't get to fully comprehend how the poll went on this previous one, but we mostly, in polls I've given in the past, most architects, we didn't get into this business for the money. We truly love what we do. And I do know many architects who would work for free. Some do, just for the pleasure of designing a project. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but passion just isn't enough. Yes, it's also going to take a lot of hard work, and that isn't difficult for people who have perfected the all-nighter. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to find passion in every facet of your business. I know many architects who have committed themselves to diving deep into many facets of the AEC space. It could be material science, means and methods of construction, zoning and building codes, CAD or BIM super user skills, specifications, color theory, you name it. But if I ask them to learn something new about how accounting could improve their metrics or any of the KPIs I often discuss during my webinars, I might see them starting to yawn. Or if I talk about how to create a business plan or build a strategic plan, I'm going to get these doe-eyed looks like, that's all nice, Steve. Can I get back to designing my project now? All we need to do is to have satisfied clients by designing great projects. Knowing as much as you can about business will make your firm better, just as the more you know about materials and construction will make you a better architect, and it will bring greater value to your projects. So you can't just be a good designer and expect that by extension, you're going to be a great architect. You need to become a master of your craft. And the same holds true for your business. You can't be a good designer and expect that you're going to have a strong, successful firm. There is so much more you're going to need to master beforehand. So, Rebecca, hole number 2. Okay. Good. There we go. Let's leave that up there, which is, what do you think? This is different than the first one. What do you think is the single highest priority of a firm owner? So you own your business, right? What's the number one priority? Is it business development, which is finding new clients, some new opportunities for your firm, maintaining your relationships with your current clients? It could involve networking and marketing. Is it financial management, which means setting budgets and tracking your expenses, but mostly ensuring that your firm is profitable? Is it talent management, which is attracting, retaining, and developing talented professionals within your firm? And that could also include things like mentorship. Is it quality control? Ensuring that your firm is consistently delivering high quality work to your clients, meeting the relevant regulations and standards, and adhering to best practices in the industry? Or is it about innovation? Encouraging creativity and innovation within the firm, maybe new approaches, new technologies that can enhance your capabilities. So I try to ramble through what this is. I know all of these are reasonable things for a firm owner to do, but what's the single highest priority? And hopefully, Rebecca, you can share the results now with us, and let's all take a look at that. Thank you. Excellent. Almost always is the number one business development and client relationship. It hovers anywhere from 49 to 65% in the polling I have done. That's followed by financial management, making sure your firm is profitable. And innovation is a very low priority for the firm. So this is perfect. I love these responses. Thank you for that. Thanks, Rebecca. That one worked well. I just want to close this particular section with one of the most important and overlooked components of having a business. A business is about value creation. And as professionals, we're really good at providing our clients with value. So if you're an architect, most typically that value is manifest in a building, or better yet, a great work of architecture. In the end, you were most likely paid nominal fees for those services, and your client is left with the product, which will most likely increase in value at an extraordinary rate, while you simply move on to the next service project. As a business, you should be discovering what people need or want, and then create value in your firm as the means of delivering what that market needs. And so that means that your firm is in many ways no different to you than that building was to your client. And when you understand this, you're going to want to build the greatest firm that reflects who you are and what you aspire to. Let's assume you've created a valuable firm. You must focus on marketing. And for some firms, I know this is a little distasteful. Isn't it enough to be great or to create great work? No, you need to attract attention and build demand for this amazing firm you created. After all, you are in a market that is overflowing with incredible talent. You need to get over your pride that if you just do great work, future work is going to follow. Please get serious about marketing your firm. Now, there's this misconception that if your firm is busy, maybe you're even turning down work, that you don't need to waste time and resources is money and people, doing any marketing. Now, for the very rare few, this might be true, but history has shown us that at some point work slows down. Maybe there's changes to the economy. Maybe some of you are feeling those changes right now, or maybe it's changes in taste and style, but you never want to be in the position of marketing your firm's services while you are hungry. Studies have shown that you shouldn't go to the grocery store when you're hungry. You're going to wind up bringing home much more food than you need, and most of it will be unhealthy. So please don't go out looking for work when you are hungry either. So again, we're going to assume that you have created an amazing firm and you have figured out what the market needs, and your marketing investment is paying off. So there are prospects knocking on your door, people walking onto your image here, car lot, right? Now, converting those prospects into paying, loyal, enthusiastic clients is actually the job of sales. So I'm not, some firms I think, well, the sales, a salesman is like a used car salesman, like all we got to do is get you behind the wheel of one of these beauties. And no, that is not you. You're not like Harry Wormwood here, in a fat tie and a fake gold watch and a tweed jacket defying description and a pork pie hat stolen from Dean Martin's golf bag. You're a bona fide, certified, award-winning professional, and you and your team are incredible. And anybody walking into your office should be grateful that you're even considering working for them. That's my attempt at bringing a little bit of levity into a discussion about explaining how your firm owners are actually professional salespeople. And trust me, I know this word sales, it's a pejorative in the minds of skilled architects. You're a professional. Your excellent work should stand for itself, and having to stoop to being a salesperson is beneath your lofty stature. So I want to try and reorient your thinking once again. At its most basic, sales is about building loyalty and trust between you, your firm, and your client. These two things cause your clients to recommend your firm to others and to return with more work. Loyalty and trust. Notice I didn't say a beautiful building delivered in budget and on schedule will create a loyal client. Most professional service firms will sell loyalty and trust through a principal or a partner. So every conversation, every phone call, every email from the firm owner to a prospect or a client should be considered a sales communication. And every interaction with this client or prospect should leave them with the proper impression that you are a trusted advisor. You're not just an architect, okay? You're going to be a trusted advisor. You're not Harry Wormwood over here. One of the interesting things about being in sales is you're going to be able to provide value before your client might even realize it. And when we speak about value-based sales, you are laser focused on the needs of the client. And when you take the approach of a consultant providing value to your client or your prospect, you're going to find that the decision to hire you is based on the potential value that your services will provide. So being able to demonstrate value to your client is what they need to see. It's not about you and your design skills or even your team and the incredibly efficient processes that your firm has devised. Those are all well and good. Those are nice to have. You have to have that. They have to see what it all means to them. After all, once again, they can just walk down the street and find another firm with similarly skilled professionals. And assuming that they aren't bargain shopping, what do you think makes the difference in their minds? I'm going to share a quick personal story with you. When I was practicing architecture, we won a client that came to our firm to help them with the creation of a new building. It was a sexy proposition. Any architect would love to tackle that. Based on a finding from a real estate consultant that they had hired. They were convinced that their current facility was incapable of servicing their needs into the future. After some analysis, we were able to demonstrate how they could save more than $2 million in construction and carrying costs, as well as through some tax abatements, by investing, renovating, and adding to their existing facility, and how that approach would not only save them money, but be far more valuable in the eyes of the public and especially their customers. This is where the needs of the client come ahead of the aspirations of a professional. This is how one becomes a trusted advisor. Soon after that meeting, we had earned their trust. Eventually, a contract was signed. And when we asked them why they chose our firm, they referred to the fact that we were more interested in their needs than what the project would mean to us, to our firm's portfolio. By the way, our fees were hardly even a consideration during the contract negotiations because they had already won. They were saving a couple of $1 million and the project hadn't even begun. And that's just an example of value-based sales. If you expect to win against your competitors, the place to start is looking beyond the written words, maybe on an RFP, on the request for proposal. You need to do your homework and learn as much as you can about this prospect. And if it's a business, about their business. Okay, the focus is going to be on teaching and not on selling. So imagine that sales isn't about selling. It's about teaching. Every interaction must add value. Or maybe another way to say that is any interaction that you're having with the client or that prospect that doesn't add value in their eyes is going to create a greater gap, building the bridge between them and you a bit harder in the future. I am not going to share any names. I'm in Los Angeles, where there's a lot of crazy architecture, but I know an amazingly prolific architect that convinced their clients to build any crazy idea they have. I am sure you have all seen some built projects and scratched your heads wondering how the heck that thing got off the drawing board and became a reality. Well, this is happening not because these architects are amazing designers, and they are, I suppose, or that they have a team of highly competent professionals, which I expect they do. That's all part of the equation. But it happened because the principal is amazing at sales. I want to digress for a quick minute here, but I read a study where 97% of law graduates are employed, but only 51% of them are in law firms. Now, that's a profession, just like architecture, that requires an incredible amount of education and some severe barriers to licensure. And the reason I'm bringing this up is that highly trained professionals in law have realized that their skills are extremely valuable outside of the traditional practice. For some reason, architects have a very narrow focus on what their skills can be applied to. Now, I am not saying that you should be like me, finding some alternative career. I'm simply suggesting that you possess some very formidable skills that can solve the problems of so many prospective clients, not just those looking for the traditional services. After all, most clients really don't even understand what an architect does, So if you are one of those firms that uses the list of services as provided by the AIA to help this future client of yours understand what your value is, what is an architect all about, you're actually missing out on being able to differentiate yourself from your competition. If any of you have worked with a client on creating, let's say, a new restaurant, you're going to understand what I'm getting at. What differentiates one great restaurant from another? So you might think it's about the amazing chef or the beautiful ambiance created by the design team. But great food and great design alone are not the keys to a successful restaurant. And just like the list of standard services that you could provide your client, as provided by the AIA, for example, your client is probably more interested in things that are not on the menu. And it's really another facet of having a business thinking mindset. Understand the problems that your clients and prospects have, and make sure that they see that you are part of the solution. Again, solidify yourself as a true long-term asset. It is now time to talk about the money. And I know this could be a difficult topic for a lot of architects. It's like the dirty little secret we all know is happening, but it's impolite to speak about it. So put on our business thinking cap and discuss why money is so important, why it should be on your mind every day. Money is really like oxygen. You really don't think about it as you go about your day-to-day business. It's usually just around us. We take it for granted. But if any of you have ever been in a crisis where you're deprived of oxygen, either maybe you're choking on food or you're scuba diving and you're running low on gas, you know what this does to the psyche. It is very, very hard to remain calm and think clearly or act wisely when you are deprived of oxygen. And when your firm is deprived of money, some very bad things can happen. So let us discuss profit. When your firm is profitable, you have I'll use the word, you have the ability to grow. Now, I know most of you are thinking you're not interested in growth. You have a small firm and you're keeping it small purposely. You enjoy your lifestyle, and growing a firm could change that. I really understand that mindset. Much of our profession is inhabited by small firms which exist to serve the life goals of their principal or a small group of owners. So maybe you have 3 people or 15 people in your office, and you really don't ever want to grow to be a firm of 50 people. That is absolutely fine. I'm not suggesting that growth means you have to literally grow your firm. Think of growth as excess profits and what can you do with more money, okay? Now, growth, by the way, can occur in 2 different ways. There's organic growth and there's strategic growth. And I'm just going to talk quickly about those. And they're both important in keeping a business thriving. Now, organic growth typically involves increasing the size or the scope of your business through some internal means. And that kind of growth is often slower, and it's going to be more gradual than the strategic growth, but it's going to be more sustainable over the long term. And when we speak of organic growth, we mean it's going to happen without the need for outside financing or taking on any debt. You're able to achieve this through your own profits. So here's just a few examples of how it might be manifest in an architectural firm. You could increase the number of clients through word of mouth referrals, or actively seeking out some new clients through some networking or marketing efforts. You could expand the kinds of services that your firm offers, some new expertise, new kinds of design services. It could be hiring some additional staff or maybe just some contractors to meet the increased demand for your firm's services. It could be just investing in marketing and branding efforts to increase your firm's visibility and your reputation in the industry. It could be diversifying your portfolio, taking on new kinds of projects, or maybe working in some new geographic regions. Maybe it's developing some new technologies or some new processes to improve your firm's efficiency and your firm's productivity. And it could be expanding your physical footprint, maybe by opening a new office or expanding your current office. All of this would be paid for by having considerable profitability, to have that abundance of oxygen. So it allows you to afford to take on any dream you have. And again, for those of you who are satisfied with the size and the culture of your current firm and you have no interest in some of these kinds of growth, please recognize that increasing your profitability enables you to pay higher salaries to attract greater talent. It allows you to be more selective in the projects that you take on. So finally, you have the power, and money is behind that power, to pick and choose the clients and the project types that will fulfill your strategic goals or your personal life goals. So no matter what you want to do with your firm, growing the bucket of money that flows into it will make whatever good things you want to have happen. Now, strategic growth, I'm going to kind of go through this a little faster. These are really going to happen like mergers and acquisitions, or some partnering with another firm. These things are going to happen because you probably have a strategic plan. Let me go back before I launch that next poll question. And it's going to involve, generally speaking, more money, like borrowing money, going to a bank, taking on greater investment. Most firms will distribute their profits at the end of the year. Some of it will go as bonuses to their employees. Bulk of it will probably be provided to the firm owners, taken out of the business. But if a firm is really thinking about a long-term strategic plan, they're most likely going to take an amount of that money and put it back in the firm, reinvest it, and let's say call it a savings account for the time being, so they can afford to take on some of these strategic growth opportunities that I was just showing you. So I'm going to move through this now. So Rebecca, poll question number 3. And this is my pivot because we're going to talk about technology. I promised you at the beginning that we're going to get into technology here. How would you describe the software that your firm currently uses to manage the business and the projects? Do you have a state-of-the-art system? Okay, everything's fine and dandy. We love what we have here. Our system is dated and it's hard to use. We do have management software, but we don't like it, so we don't use it. Maybe you're one of those firms that really is running itself by using some spreadsheets. Maybe you've got like what I call one-trick ponies, just some applications that do simple tools for you, but everything's disconnected. Or maybe you don't have anything to help run your firm. You just work comes in the door and you get it done. And so, Rebecca, when you sense that the results are slowing down, let's go ahead. We got a large audience today and share that with everybody and see what things look like today.
Looks like there's a few more in the process, and
Okay.
I'll go ahead and launch in just a moment.
Okay, so always the same. Okay, 40% of you, the largest cohort here, are using spreadsheets to run your business. Almost a third of you, 27% of you, are currently using a state-of-the-art system. This is good. This is a little bit higher. I usually see it somewhere between 20 and 25%. So California, good group of people here. This more or less coincides with high-performing firms. About 20 to 25% of all firms are high-performing firms. I would expect that almost every one of them is using a state-of-the-art system to run their business. So I'm really talking about the 63% of you, or whatever that is, 73% of you, who are really using either spreadsheets or systems that are just not really functional. So I'm going to close that poll question here. And so Galileo said mathematics is the language in which God has written the universe. Now, fortunately, for those of us who aren't so mathematically inclined, if you're in business, you may not need to know the math. Since we do have technology that most of you aren't using, but we do have technology that makes it easy. But I will tell you, you must know the numbers. This is how business speaks to us, through metrics, through measurement. And we all know you can't manage what you can't measure, or what I really prefer is what gets measured gets managed, because we can have systems that can measure things for us. And once you see that information, once you see those metrics, you can't help but want to manage that. Now, whether you have these systems or not, I just want you to know that you should not be making decisions, many business decisions, based on your gut alone. Now, if I were to ask you, how do you develop the hourly bill rates for your employees, assuming that there are times when you bill on an hourly basis? I know the overwhelming majority are going to say they pick those bill rates by knowing what other firms charge for people with similar skills or experience in your geographic region. So you're basically really like a retailer who's matching the prices of a competitor rather than charging what you believe is appropriate for the value you bring. Or charging an hourly rate, at least that is calculated based on your actual costs and then allows for a reasonable markup in profit. Key performance indicators, KPIs, will actually provide the business intelligence as to what that hourly rate should be based on reality, based on quantifiable data. If I asked you, if you knew the margin between what an employee cost you and what they earn for you, would you know what that margin is, or would you even care? And if you respond no to the first question, you're again in that 75th percentile of your peers. If you respond by saying no to the second one, which is you don't care, you're in the wrong webinar. If all you knew was the true cost of every hour for every employee and the true revenue derived from every hour of every employee, you would have incredible power. Now, there is a common phrase that knowledge is power, but knowledge in itself is just knowledge. Having the ability to act on your knowledge, that's where the real power happens. When you know the numbers behind every facet of your business, that's when you have the ability to wield power, to exploit what is working and to change what isn't. So KPIs give you the intelligence to make smart business decisions. So next, that begs the question, what are the best practices for implementing a metrics-oriented leadership system within your firm? And it comes as no surprise to me that most firms proudly proclaim, certainly on their websites, that their employees are their greatest asset. These are typically highly educated people. They've spent years honing their skills. And as most of you probably recognize, they are undercompensated for their skills and their talents. Now, your technology is really just like another employee, and it certainly requires the same kind of investment and care. Most of you have done an exceptional job in due diligence on the researching the various CAD and BIM solutions that are out there on the market. And then you select one that really fits your needs within your firm. And your assumption is when people are properly trained to use that software, they're going to be more productive. It's going to yield a better product. It's going to make everyone from your employees to your consultants to your clients happier. And this is no less true when it comes to finding the best tools to help your firm operate. So when I speak about operations, I mean everything from the banal yet important tasks such as time tracking, project scheduling, resource allocation, budgeting, invoicing, accounting, human resources, and CRM. So the tools that you use to run your business, like the tools that you use for CAD or BIM to design and prepare your deliverables, it's going to improve your efficiency. It's going to provide a structure and a consistency in the firm, which anybody using an Excel spreadsheet does not have. It's going to reduce risk. It's going to simplify management. It's going to create a more satisfying culture. And more importantly, it's going to free you from those repetitive and mundane tasks that so many firms suffer from when they deal with these back office responsibilities. The sole proprietor today, who's at this webinar, is probably using some of the same CAD and BIM software tools that the largest firms in the world use. So technology is the great leveler. So please, if you are a small firm, don't think you should not be exploiting technology to run your firm, just like you do to design and prepare the deliverables for your projects. Okay, so let me move that on. Now, I'm just going to take a couple minutes here, just to share with you a few slides. These are screenshots from the BQE Core native cloud solution, just as an example, what I believe is the alternative to firms managed with old world spreadsheets or standalone disconnected software tools, or for many of you who have older tools that you're just not happy with. Here we are assured that the data is always in real time, and since it is in a single source of truth, it's always accurate. Unlike those spreadsheets where, did we update this spreadsheet? What's going on here? This is a single source of truth. Here I have a dashboard. It's looking at all the financials that I care about. There are no mysteries. When one uses a tool like this, I have real-time access within the platform to see, what's in our checking account and our 401k account and our credit card accounts. It's just an example. What's the accounts receivables? All of those metrics are there in real time. And I'm not asking people to get back to me and I get a result, 2 days later, right? I have a dashboard here that has widgets telling me all the things I care about personally. In the upper left, I have what we call a project status widget monitoring how my projects are performing against our internal project budgets or against the contract if you want. And it's showing me that 5 of them have these little warning lights next to them. So maybe I'm not a great manager. To the right of that, I can see what work is expected of me this month or this week, whatever you might want to set it to, is looking at the same time live into my time card and comparing. It's looking at what are all the project schedules, what's my contribution to all those projects, what's expected of me over the timeline, and what have I been actually doing based on my time card. And on the bottom, I've got my to-dos and project documents. And now I'm looking at a Gantt chart for one of the projects. And I can not only see which individuals or teams of people are working on what kinds of activities over the timeline, but I can also see in those horizontal blue bars, as they get darker in proportion to the amount of effort the team has been putting in on their time card. So if I'm coming up to a deadline and I don't see dark blue in that bar, I know people haven't actually been putting in the effort to make sure we can hit our deadline. It's bringing in information inside of the various aspects of my business into a single view for me. Here, I'm inside of what we call a project performance dashboard for the Pasadena Elementary School. And I could see the KPIs that allow me to understand how this project is performing from a financial perspective. It's at a 19% profit right now. And on the upper right, $264,427 have come out of firm owners' pockets and invested into this client's project, right? That's what your investment is in a project when you see that particular number. This is a very similar screen, but it's looking at one of the employees, Jan DeMarco, and telling me everything I need to know about how she is performing for our firm. And the business intelligence being delivered through the software shows me she's been bringing us a 20% profit over the date range of this particular dashboard right now. It has even calculated what is the ideal pay rate for her in the upper right, $54 an hour. Imagine that. It knows her utilization, it knows her realization, it knows my profit expectations. And based on all of that, it's saying, pay Jan $54 an hour. And that's like $112,000 a year. And I will receive my 20% margin, which I do see. So everything is perfectly balanced on here, right? Now, at the top of today's webinar, I did discuss, the business thinking mindset, and I mentioned that it's a little bit different than business skills like accounting, which you should also be able to understand. Those are the kind of the minimal skills as a business owner. But most firm owners really look at 2 financial reports every month. They look at a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement or an income statement. And those reports in themselves are just snapshots in time that tell you if you have enough oxygen at that very moment. But they don't tell you about your supply needs for the future and if the oxygen is keeping pace with your annual plan. So if your firm is not creating an annual financial budget, you are not alone. Again, you're in that 75th percentile of your peers, which is to say you get a solid C. What can really help elevate you into a top performing firm is to not only create and review your business plan and your strategic plan every single year, but to ensure that that plan will become manifest by budgeting for it. Make sure you can afford to execute on those organic growth objectives. We all make plans, I hope, for how we're going to deliver a project. How are you going to deliver your business? This is what that is. Without this plan and without software that simplifies and automates so much of this back office stuff, you're going to have an impossible time getting better than a solid C. And when you have the ability to manage a budget on an annual, a quarterly, or a monthly basis, you finally have the ability to make plans. You're going to be able to report on your performance against your budget, and you're going to make changes based on the good or bad news. You're going to find your weaknesses, and you're going to find your strengths. and you're going to get better at this over time. The more history that you have at creating budgets and working towards them, it's really not a lot different than working with a personal trainer who sets goals for you and then creates the plan so you can achieve your goal. So please have systems in your firm that allow you to easily create and monitor your firm's budgets. The effort required to create a budget, on a 12-month basis, it's really a matter of a couple of mouse clicks and make some little tweaks based on what objectives you have for the coming year. I'm going to mention, by the way, I very often hear from firms who complain about how much time they spend creating reports. All of you who have using spreadsheets to run your business are the ones who generally complain about that. Reports that you need to give to the partners or the managers. It's a regular Groundhog's Day nightmare for people who find themselves doing the same thing week after week, chasing after your employees to complete a time card, analyzing project completion values, updating billing information, chasing after consultant expenses, on and on. The amount of effort wasted is shameful. The probability that that data is not accurate for spreadsheets is extremely high. The possibility that you have a calculated cell that is not properly formatted or includes all of the rows that are above it or wherever is very high. And by the way, finally, those reports are made presentable. They are historical documents. You should never waste your time looking at any information that can't provide you with an opportunity to take action and fix problems before they happen. Now, in the case of the native cloud software, these reports can be culled in seconds. But the bigger thing I really want to share with you is, because this is software that automates, you don't have to run reports. Just schedule the reports. You know who needs this report on what day of the week and what time of the day or what day of the month they need to get it. The system will do all the number crunching and send it to them when they're most likely to have the bandwidth to pay attention to that report. And by the way, I must point out, I'm sorry I've run so long today, if your firm doesn't have access to your data 24/7 from any device, you are 10 years behind the times. Data is gold. It enables you to be in control. So when you have a problem, if there's a leak, you know what you need to fix it. You don't want to wait until there's some mold showing up on the drywall to realize you've had a slow leak going on for months behind the scenes. So please look at systems that are out in the market today that are modern, like BQE Core here for today, and see how they could be implemented in your firm. The return on that investment is going to be stunning. And more importantly, you and your people will find they're going to have greater freedom. They're going to be more efficient, and ultimately they're going to be happier. So we are now ready to dive into any Q&A. I don't know if you want to be able to, I'm happy, by the way, any questions that we don't get to today, if they've been put into the system, I will write you back and talk about them if we can't talk about them live here today. And with that, I guess maybe Emily, you might be coming on. Oh, yes, great. Rebecca, we do have one last question here, and I really encourage all of you, no matter what systems you have, if you'd like to learn about BQE Core, which is those screenshots I was sharing you today, it'll just please let them know if you want a product demo, or you want to start a free trial, or you want to talk to one of their specialists. It'll be well worth your time to see what kind of improvements could be brought into your firm by using smart, modern software that's kind of fun to use. So you can leave that poll running up there if you'd like to, Rebecca. And Emily, how are we on questions? Anything coming through?
Yes, thank you, Steve. We do have a couple questions. I'll go ahead and dive right in since I know we're on a little time crunch. We have a question from Becky. She asked, I believe this is in regards to Core, how does the program document prospective projects that are not yet in contract?
Yeah, so there's a few ways you can do this in Core. There's actually a CRM module, a client relationship management module, which helps you build proposals and estimate, prepare fee proposals for your clients. Eventually, so those projects can be worked on before they're handed off to the team by, let's say a partner in the firm. Once it's brought into the system, as an active project, suddenly it becomes available to the team so that they can start tracking time on it. But you always want to track time on these projects, even when they're in the RFP or RFQ stage, because you would like to know from a time card standpoint, what investment your company has put into winning a project. So some firms create a marketing phase for their projects. It's even before pre-design, and so that all of the months, or some cases years, of investment of working or wooing a client could be tallied up as part of the overall investment in a project. Yeah, but I would say, please do sign up and get a product demo so you could see how simply you can create projects, especially from template projects, because a lot of us do work that is repetitive, single family residential or whatever it might be, that follows all the same processes and has the same sort of checklist system. Did I do a zoning and code analysis and, sign contract and a retainer, all those kinds of things that you want. The system will make sure that you are not missing on any of those steps there.